Fastest 15 minutes on the internet, fastest 15 minutes in social media. My name is Judson Powell. All right, so got to talk about the COVID-19. Again, I was trying to stay away from it and stay more on spiritual matters, but actually this came from the spirit, so I got to talk about it because, it didn't really, it came half from the spirit and half from just sitting around thinking and then reading as usual. But you know what? I started thinking about the whole 5G thing again. And I kind of at first I dismissed it because I was like, there's not really like a whole lot of concrete information. And so then I started, I kept on researching, and I knew some things about it. I know that, that the government first rolled it out in 1979. Okay, these are things that you can get from like reading different stuff. And so then I started thinking, I was like, well, since it's been around since 1979, well, the reason why they used it, the military and the government used it was because it could penetrate through walls and through buildings and all that kind of stuff. But the downfall with that is it also penetrates through people. All right. And so then my main concern about the whole 5G thing was, how is it how do you transmit it, or how do you use it as a weapon? And then I started seeing Trump, like Trump is always talking about, we want to roll out 5G, 6G, 7G, we want to be ahead, we want to beat the rest of the world in doing this. And so I was trying to think, I was like, well, why? Why is it, if it's just a communication technology, why is it so important that we beat the rest of the world to the punch? So that's my concern with that. My second concern with all of this stuff is Bill Gates. And I've been going after him, and I'm going to be honest, I've been going after him and putting him on my timeline and everything else like this, because he owns patents to these vaccines, and he owns patents to the viruses. All right, or his foundation. Everybody wants to mince words with me or whatever, but he owns it. All right. And so I'm trying to figure out, why is he so interested in this? And also, all of these reports, I reposted something that was written in 2018. And then I've been seeing all these posts about his drive for depopulation and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, and then he's talking about all the people, like 100 million Africans would be killed by COVID-19 and all of this stuff. And then at first it was kind of strange, because I was like, well, why? At first black folks wasn't dying. And then the next, like a couple of days later, it's like every black person that died, they put them on the, it was like they were front page news. Every single black person that died was front page news. And I was like, that's just not logical, because of the fact, and then you have to think, who actually controls the media? Who is actually controlling what you see and what you hear? And I have my frat brother came and say, well, you don't trust the media, but you put stuff on here. But because where there's smoke, there's fire. All right. And if everybody keeps reporting the same thing, then eventually you got to say, hey, there's some truth to this. And everything is not and the other thing is, stop using conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory if there's factual information. This man owns patents to coronavirus and to the vaccines for coronavirus. And then the drug that President Trump was touting as a possible cure for coronavirus, he owns, or he tried to own, part of the company. Okay, unclear whether he actually owns it or whether he owns part of it. Okay, and then we found out that his son-in-law owned the company that was responsible for the websites and for the test kits and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like, okay, conspiracy theory or not, but they own this stuff. Okay, or they're involved in this stuff. Okay, and then there is Dr. Lieber, who nobody is talking about, but he's still in custody for a non-disclosure of a business relationship charge, which is not a big charge. Okay, if you don't, they don't hold you without bond for a charge like that. So he knows something, or they're trying to keep him from saying something. Okay, because supposedly him and his 2 Chinese students are the inventors of the virus. All right. And deep down on the inside, they got a grant. They got a government, $150 million government grant. Follow the white man with the money. y'all do not understand. Follow the white man with the money. Okay. And then I guess they were paying him like 50 to 60,000. China was paying him money to let these students be with him or whatever, be in this program that he was running at Harvard. Okay, so he got money from both sides. So he's involved up to his eyelids. You know, he was taking money from both sides. And then his 2 students that also were arrested with him were from where? Wuhan, where the epicenter of the virus started in China. And then here's the other curious thing. Okay, and all I'm asking y'all to do is think. I'm not asking y'all to, to believe what I'm saying or nothing like that. All I'm asking you to do is think about these things. The next thing is that, okay, why? Why is the government protocol, okay, even in the whole thing, the only protocol is to what? Wear a face mask, wash your hands, and stay 6 feet from everybody. But it's a virus. So why aren't we having protocol to try to kill the virus? Why aren't they telling you the things that these other doctors who turned the tide around in China and who turned the tide around in Italy and who turned the tide around in Iran, who stopped the virus from spreading there, why aren't they telling us what they did? And then then all they tell us is, okay, the death rate is going up. And that's why I say I don't even trust the doctor, what's his name, Fauci or whatever. I don't trust him because he works for Trump. Okay, and if you know that Trump is a bad person and a racist and all that, why would you work for him? I mean, everybody that's ever, and then you notice they're constantly fighting about what's going to be said, and when they get behind closed doors, Trump tells him what to say. He doesn't have a mind of his own. So think about it. So they know, and then the next thing is the high. Okay, but there's the rate of infection in Africa is low. It's not high. So why are you going to test a vaccine on Africans and African Americans? Oh, they're rolling it out in Detroit. So they're gonna, and I understand. Okay, we understood that there were a lot of Iranians that went there, and so that's why the infection rate went up. But they're not talking about the Iranians that are dying. They're not talking about any other race of people. All they're doing, and I believe, I have no proof. Okay, so this is my conspiracy theory right here, because this is a theory. Okay. But what I believe is that they're just trying to sell us a vaccine, and they can make billions of dollars. And then there was the senator, the one senator who came out and admitted that they started to lobby him in order to make the vaccine mandatory. Okay, but the thing that does not make sense about making the vaccine mandatory is the fact that the virus, according to doctors, not according to me, but the virus is endemic, meaning that it's always been here, it will always be here, and eventually it will mutate into something else. And once it mutates into something else, the vaccine that you're developing for COVID-19 will not work for COVID-20 or COVID-28. So this is just a temporary, but you're going to make everybody take this vaccine. And I'm talking about this is what doctors say, not what I'm saying. Okay, all viruses, all flus, the SARS, the NARS, all of these viruses and stuff like that, they mutate. They don't stay the same. Okay, So even though they have the same rudiment, they have the same, from what I understand and from what the doctors say, they have the same root, okay? But when they grow up, they manifest differently, okay? And so now, speaking of the manifestation of the virus, why is it? Okay, you have to think, and they're not reporting all of this stuff accurately, okay? Most of the people who are dying are what? They are above, they're advanced in age. They have pre-existing conditions, including heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, compromised immune systems, that's what I was trying to say, or compromised respiratory systems. They have bronchitis, asthma, tuberculosis. All of these different things are already present in these people. Okay, so now let's throw out another conspiracy theory that I'm probably making up. But now, when Obamacare, the whole argument about Obamacare was what? Paying for what? Pre-existing conditions. And it's just so funny that this virus attacks people with pre-existing conditions, unless you were at ground zero and then but if you have some pre-existing conditions, you were out of here quickly. Elevated age, hypertension, high blood pressure, all sounds familiar. Sounds like stuff that black people get. Pre-existing conditions. And so that's why when I was posting, I was telling people, look, alkaline your body, make your body strong, stop eating the stuff that you eat, because that's, to me, I believe wholeheartedly that that's part of it, because the probability that this was made in a lab is very high. And even if you go and you do the research for Dr. Sebi said most viruses are man-made. Or they come from what? From eating animals. Just like this virus supposedly in Wuhan mutated from people eating bats. Now, were the bats infected? Did they infect the bats first and then give them to them and sell it to them and let them eat them? See, so that you could kind of create a smoke screen. We got to start thinking. And then the other thing is, and like I said, then they predict. First, they start predicting this high death rate of black people, but black people were not getting infected and were not dying. And then all of a sudden, our rates just go up. And then we go into isolation we were already in isolation for 14 days, which is supposed to be the incubation period of the virus. But then after 14 days, they come back out and tell us that we're going to be locked down for even more time. And at that, once we're locked down for more time, there's going to be 100,000 deaths. And at the time, they said that there were less than 3,000 deaths. So what do they know that they're not telling us? Or, what are they telling us that ain't true? Because you can't have it both ways. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why, and everybody's like, oh, you're just making all this stuff up. And no, I'm not. Most of this stuff is factual. Unless I said that it was a conspiracy theory of mine, unless I said it was a theory of mine that I can't prove, but I believe that those pre-existing conditions and all of that are part of it. Because they're trying to figure out ways to get rid of people, the depopulation program. Which is, once again, who? Bill Gates. That's what he's trying to do. He believes in depopulation, and he wants to depopulate black folks, and so do the Republican conservatives, because that's part of their plan. Voter suppression. If they know that there are more of us and they can get rid of us, which I've been saying for the last couple of years, it's like that's their plan, and that's why I constantly tell people register and vote so that you can get these people out of here, because they know they can't beat us. They can't beat us in the straight up that we've never lost an election where we all registered and we all voted together. Anyway, fastest 15 minutes is up. Sorry if I offended anybody. Well, actually, I'm not. Past 15 minutes up. Hit like, hit subscribe. I love you all. Stay safe.